Okay, Jennifer, well, we are at 3:01. I would like us to get started. And
All right.
I think you have the agenda, yes?
I do.
Okay, do you mind pulling that up?
Yeah. All right, here we go.
Well, ladies, this is our favorite way to start out a new year by seeing the beautiful, lovely faces of our Spelman sisters as we come back together. I think this is the first official event that we've had in 2022. So welcome. It's great to see you. We have a jam-packed schedule as we always talk about. I don't know how many people still do New Year's resolutions. But in setting these goals, hopefully it includes financial freedom or financial empowerment, however you want to phrase it. And we're doing our part to make sure that we stay focused on that. We've learned a lot so far in 2021, and 2022 is going to be even better. So today, we are going to start out talking about cryptocurrencies, and we have a speaker coming in from Invesco. And as a part of that presentation, we're going to have our own Justine Lawrence. You know how we were looking for people who really understood cryptocurrencies, but because it's so new, there haven't been a lot of folks developing that professionalism within the industry. Justine has been doing this on her own for a while. And so she is going to share with us after Matt does the formal presentation. And she's actually going to give us the assignment. So how we work through this next phase of investment for the next couple of months until we come back together. And before I turn it over to Jennifer, I want to mention one thing. So as we continue to get together, it is critical that you all send in your tracking information to Jennifer far enough in advance, and I'm going to let her go through what that means, how far in advance she'd like to see it. Otherwise, we're not going to have any data to report out as the collective. And at the end of the year, it's always great to see how much we have done as women, you know, focusing on our financial health and well-being. So Jennifer, I'm going to pause there and you take it over.
Yes. So ladies, I noticed today, welcome, first of all, welcome, Happy New Year. I know it was said, but it's so great to see all of you. In terms of our investment tracker, I know that when I last looked at it, there were still a few groups that had not completed their investment tracker. I got some text messages saying, hey, Jen, I completed. But we actually will need it a week in advance. And the reason we need it a week in advance is we need to be able to update everything for the meeting. And in order for us to manage our timeframes with our current, you know, Adrienne and I's workloads and the other stuff that we do, we need to have it in advance of the meeting so that we can actually recognize you all for the hard work that you've done, you know, in picking your investments and tracking your investments. So we need it at least a week ahead of time. So your investments for the following, you know, before the meeting need to be done a week in advance so that you can update the trackers. And therefore, then I can take it over and update, you know, the master trackers so that we know where everyone stands and we can recognize, you know, those groups that are actually doing phenomenal things, because we want to do that at every meeting. And so this one will be delayed. We don't have that to update tonight, but I'm hoping that, you know, if you haven't yet updated, please do so after the meeting today, so that I can go ahead and take a look. And, you know, it won't be in the meeting, but I'll, you know, I can send an email blast. We can send a communication blast, just letting everyone know, you know, where we stand and doing the recognition that way. But it's just important to do it a week before the next meeting. The next meeting, by the way, is March 16th. So that'll be due 7 days prior, which, what does that make it? Like the whatever, I can't think.
9th?
The 9th. Okay. So make sure it is updated by then. And I do believe, Adrienne, that we have our guest speaker is on.
Excellent. Oh, I see Matt there.
You see Matt?
I do.
Awesome. So Matt, I'm pretty sure you can hear me. And
can you hear me?
I can hear you and we can see you.
Okay, nice.
So let me go ahead and do an introduction. Let me stop sharing here. But I want to introduce you ladies to our guest speaker this evening, who's going to spend some time with us covering the topic that we're actually covering next. Okay. And so this is super important, that you pay attention, that we all pay attention, and that we actually get a chance to take notes, because this is what we're going to be doing for our next meeting and presenting on. Okay. So our guest speaker for this evening is Matt Wilkinson of Invesco. He's a market leader at Invesco, which is a big investment management company headquartered here in Atlanta, Georgia. For those of you that are here, you can see them off the highway. I believe they're right off Peachtree Street and like the Ansley area. But Matt and I have had a chance to work together for a couple of years. And so I'm super excited that he was available. He's been with Invesco for 7 years. He's a certified financial planner. He is a certified investment management analyst, lives in Cincinnati, Ohio, married with 2 kids. And I guess a third is due in May.
We do. Third on the way.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Awesome. Well, Matt, take it away for us. Let's talk cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see if I can start sharing my screen here. Give me a thumbs up if you guys can see this. Okay, perfect. We got a couple
You can
thumbs up.
see it, Matt. You're in good shape.
Awesome. Awesome. So great to be with you tonight. Thanks for the invite. Thanks for being here. I am in my car doing a personal hotspot, so hopefully the connection works out well, but I called in, so I think the audio will stick with us here. Jen asked me to kind of go through a little bit about just cryptocurrencies and, broadly speaking, what we classify as digital assets and what that means for investing and how you can invest in a long-term view of what that means for financial markets. Full disclosure, if I step back for a second, we do have different investment products that track certain segments of the digital asset space. I'm not going to go through that tonight, but I wanted to give you that kind of intro before we jump in. Really what my goal tonight is to kind of go through what are digital assets, should we be considering them for investment portfolios, and what do they mean for future innovation and future growth in financial markets? Digital assets, I think, is another word for thinking about things like cryptocurrencies, things like non-fungible tokens, things like ICOs, anything that really lives in the digital world can really be considered a digital asset. And this is what we talk about, is really digital assets are kind of wide ranging in their term, if you will. They're really the easiest way to think about it is the idea of something being electronic in nature and something that is a file or record, right? That is as simplistic as we can get, but that's what a digital asset is something that lives electronically. That's a file or record. Now, inside of that, there's many things that we can talk about as to what they mean for portfolios and how you can invest your money. And obviously, things, of course, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, what have you, have been the topic of many conversations and many of interest, given their recent returns and what we've seen out of those different types of coins in the last couple of years. But tonight, I really want to go through really the structure, right? And you think about Bitcoin and where Bitcoin made its origin is really on the backs of what is the blockchain technology. And I think the blockchain technology is what is the most exciting part of the not only cryptocurrency space, but the digital asset space. And so I want to spend some time just talking about what is blockchain, what are the common use cases of blockchain, and then as we transition to understand what is cryptocurrency and what is the current kind of overview of the landscape in the market of what we see from blockchain and cryptocurrencies. We'll then transition into, again, these use cases and what we see as the transformational avenue of what blockchain can do from a decentralization, right? But also a digitalization of certain industries and certain components of different industries of what makes it so attractive. So we'll talk about blockchain and how it could be transformative in terms of its technology, but also too, what are ways that we can see that kind of moving into the mainstream of what we see on a day-to-day basis. I'm not going to spend too much time on our Invesco ETFs because I believe tonight I just want to give you a broad overview and education of the space and what that means for investing. So first off, right, just kind of crypto basics, right? We think about the technology. I think the first question that you have to ask is, what is blockchain? And the best analogy that I've heard, right or wrong, the best analogy that I've heard is think of blockchain as a Microsoft Excel sheet that everyone can see, right? It's a Microsoft Excel sheet that everyone can see. Now, inside of that, what are folks doing in that, let's call it online or electronic Microsoft Excel sheet? It's that they're creating a database. They're creating a ledger, right? And specifically, they're creating a ledger of peer-to-peer transactions. Meaning, I transact with Jennifer, right? Her and I transact together, peer-to-peer, but there's nothing in between. There's no intermediary. There's no bank, there's no institution, there's no government, there's nothing. It's her and I transacting together with no one in between, right? So that's the whole philosophy of the term of peer-to-peer, right? The second part of that is the term immutable, which means it can't be changed. No one can alter what happens on the blockchain ledger, what happens on the blockchain database. So it's almost as if this, call it online Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, if you will, of all these transactions that are happening. Everyone can see it, but no one can click in and alter what's happening. So what you get with that is, number one, transparency. So there's no central authority, if you will, right? What you're relying on, as we show on that first bullet point underneath transparency, are really a global network of computers, or is what we call nodes, right? And every computer or every node has a full record of all the data on the blockchain. And it's updated in a simultaneous fashion, if you will, right? As these transactions occur. So it's almost as if, right, we can transact together, peer-to-peer, without anyone in between, and no one can change what happens when we make those transactions. So it's transparent and it's secure, right? Because all the transactions or all the things that happen on the blockchain, right? All of the entries, they're agreed upon by a consensus across the network. And this consensus, they call it consensus protocol, right? This ensures the accuracy across the blockchain, right? Now, here's the thing. In the second bullet point, you see there under security, if one of those computers, if one of those nodes attempts to tamper with the record, all the other computers, all the other nodes would cross-reference and quickly pinpoint the error. So not only is it transparent, but it's secure, right? And so this is what's interesting. When you think about what is blockchain, blockchain is what we call a distributed ledger technology. So it's something that lives in the digital space that allows peers to transact without an intermediary, right? Now you think about that, and the first bullet point here under security talks about this consensus, right? How do you agree upon these transactions being accurate? How do you come to this consensus? In several of the blockchains, Bitcoin being one of them, in order to validate transactions, to validate that these are secure, that they're accurate, that they happen between peer-to-peer, when you validate that transaction, when you help the blockchain network work, then you're rewarded with coins. And in this case, Bitcoin. So the whole incentive to helping this network operate, to be transparent, to be secure, is that then you can receive coins or rewards. In this case, if you're on the Bitcoin blockchain, you receive Bitcoins to validate these types of transactions. We'll get into that a little bit more, but I wanted to specify that a little bit, right? The third component is as I mentioned before, the decentralization, right? If you think about it, any changes to the system's operations or the back office structure, if you will, they require a majority of the nodes or a majority of the network's computing power to agree upon them. So there's no centralized authority that's making this decision. It's decentralized in its nature. And this really, and I'll get to this in a little bit, but this stemmed post-financial crisis of 2008. So much distrust of specifically the banking industry, right? And those central authorities, that's where the really innovation and the creation of the blockchain, but specifically Bitcoin, came about, was this whole idea of how do we create a network that's transparent, that's secure, that's decentralized, that allows individuals, peer-to-peers, to transact without anyone in between, right? And so we'll get to that here in a little bit, but let me jump to the next slide. It talks about some of the sample use cases of where we can see blockchain being used within our society today, right? Supply chain is huge. Supply chain is the top one. I feel like that's bullet pointed there. Supply chain logistics and monitoring is a big one where blockchain can be used. We've actually seen some use cases already today where some of the largest shipping companies and technology companies like IBM have used blockchain to really validate, simplify, and really help kind of beef up their logistics monitoring. And the whole idea is, if there's a network, if there's a blockchain of all these participants that can put on these different updates or information of what's going on, there doesn't have to be a centralized location of information that they have to put the orders or put the updates to. They can all see what's happening on the blockchain to see where these shipments are being ported, where they're being delivered, where the efficiencies can come into play to keep everyone updated in terms of the process. That's a big benefit of what you can see from a supply chain side for what blockchain can do. Another one is a big one in terms of transactions from country to country. You've probably heard this before, but the whole idea of transacting in Bitcoin from a country such as, the US, abroad, if people, let's say migrant workers, make a living here in the US and they want to send money abroad to their family members in different countries, typically they have to go through such services or intermediaries such as, Western Union. And to send money from the US to their home country through Western Union, they could be taxed on fees such as 8% or more to send their paychecks from the US abroad. And that, let's say transition of money, right? Or that transaction could take up to a week or two. Whereas transacting in Bitcoin, transferring money in Bitcoin, there's no fees, and it could happen as soon as 10 minutes. So in terms of just the use cases of what you see not only from blockchain, but what you see from Bitcoin is a variety of use cases across different industries, across different sectors, across different organizations, of where you can see this playing out on how technology can advance, but also produce an ease of use for consumers. All right, so let's jump to cryptocurrency, because I think that's typically, I feel like what gets the most headlines is cryptocurrency, whereas the biggest benefit is really coming from the blockchain technology. So cryptocurrency is this decentralized digital money that's based on the blockchain. As I said earlier, right? The blockchains are created differently. The biggest ones are Bitcoin, Ether, Ethereum, right? And what happens is, in order to receive the cryptocurrencies, to receive the rewards of the tokens, you have to perform certain programmable actions. In this case, Bitcoin. Bitcoin, we'll start with the first one here, is based on the idea, as you've heard the term miners, right? Miners are those computer programmers that verify the transactions on the Bitcoin blockchain. So to receive a Bitcoin, you have to mine or verify the transactions on the Bitcoin blockchain. So it's incentive-based to go out and help support the Bitcoin blockchain network to verify those transactions that are happening on that said blockchain. Meaning, if I were to go transact on the Bitcoin blockchain, right, all of the other computer nodes would have to verify that my transaction was accurate, correct, it produced the right results. They would have to verify, using computer programming, that transaction was accurate. For those that verify that transaction is accurate, they're then rewarded with Bitcoin. So that's the whole idea of this term miners. When you hear, oh, I'm a Bitcoin miner, specifically speaking, they are part of verifying the Bitcoin blockchain, because they're using intense amounts of computer power, computer programming, to verify the transactions on the Bitcoin blockchain. And by their actions of verifying the transactions, they're then rewarded with Bitcoin. So apologies I went in depth there, but I feel like that's a big part to kind of explain of what the term miners and where the cryptocurrencies come off of the blockchains. So again, blockchain is an immutable, meaning it cannot be changed, database that stores data. Think of it as like an online Microsoft Excel spreadsheet where everyone can see the transactions that are happening. And those transactions are grouped together or stacked together in what we call as blocks. All these blocks are stacked together of all these different transactions that are happening, right? The altcoins is really any other coin outside of Bitcoin. It's kind of a term that's not used as much as it was initially, but it's any other coin outside of Bitcoin. Ethereum, this is the interesting one. This, again, is another blockchain technology, but this is a technology of blockchain that allows for transactions outside of financial transactions, meaning it allows for smart contracts. It allows for you to transact in things outside of financial assets. And so from a blockchain technology let's call it potential. Most folks would say that Ethereum projects as the most potential because it is more programmable than the Bitcoin blockchain. It allows for more of these smart contracts than the Bitcoin blockchain. And from a smart contract, this is basically, as you see here, a computer protocol that facilitates, verifies, and forces a contract on the blockchain without third parties. So think of it as basically a smart contract is a contract between a peer-to-peer is enforced when certain factors or certain variables are met. So it's a if-when it happens, right? So if I do this, when I do this, then the contract is enforced. So it's almost as if, let's say I wanted to buy a new suit from New York. I buy a new suit, I pay the money, the smart contract is verified when I send the money and I get the suit. There's no intermediary. It's basically saying if these certain things are met, then the contract is enforced. Let me stop there. Are there any questions? I've been talking, I feel like a lot. I've been going through this. Are there any questions so far?
I see at
Matt,
least
hey,
one
Matt.
hand up. Okay, go ahead, Jennifer. You see it?
I actually don't, but I do have a few questions that have been sent.
Okay,
So-
let me go
Go
to
ahead.
Kim Murray. She has her hand up, and then we'll go back to those that have been sent.
Yes. Good afternoon and evening. So my question to you, I've learned a little bit about Bitcoin, the blockchain technology. I've actually enjoyed learning a little bit more about blockchain technology. Invested in a little bit of cryptocurrency here and there. The part that I always get hung up on is when the miners, and I think you just brought that part up, is the mining of the Bitcoin. Because, you know, when we think about the US dollar or money being made here in the States, you know, we have the Federal Reserve as well as the Treasury. They make and then also dictate how much money is being printed, right? Can you speak a little bit more about the mining? Because that's the part for me that, you know, I don't want to take away from cryptocurrencies. There is some legitimacy to cryptocurrencies, but I think that mining part really is just, for me, the part that I can't really seem to understand and or grasp. I read about it, done some research, but it's just really hard to conceptualize.
No, and I'm trying to find the slide. I wonder if we have the slide in here. So basically the whole idea with mining, and I'll go back to this one. If you think about like the whole idea of mining is that you're helping validate the transactions of the Bitcoin blockchain, right? When you validate those transactions, then you're rewarded with a Bitcoin, right? The thing about mining and what people look at this is the same as they look at, you know, let's call it gold. The reason why they call it digital gold is because of the scarcity. Bitcoin blockchain is unique in the fact that there will only ever be a certain number of Bitcoins in existence. So I think the number is like 21 million, right? So years ago, let's call it, 10 years ago, when Bitcoin was kind of in its infancy, if you will, the reward for verifying transactions on the Bitcoin blockchain was more than it is today. It's this whole event they call halving, if you will, basically saying that you would get more Bitcoins 10 years ago by verifying the transactions than you do today. But the whole idea of the miners is that you are mining, you're verifying these transactions to then be rewarded in the specific cryptocurrency. And when that cryptocurrency is scarce, right, and there's an element of supply and demand, that's when you can benefit from receiving and then owning such cryptocurrency. And hopefully that answers kind of what you're thinking. But that's the whole idea, is that why is there such potential for digital assets? Why is there such potential for Bitcoin? Is because if you think about it, the scarcity element, right? The supply and demand element, there's such demand, it's such a limited supply that the stats currently show that only about 10% of Americans own Bitcoin, right? If Bitcoin were to be widely adopted as gold is, right? That would suggest that Bitcoin's price would need to rise to 500,000, which from today is a significant increase, right? And so that's one element of why I would say participants, are so excited about the potential of cryptocurrencies, but Bitcoin specifically, is for that reason, because it's scarce, as gold is scarce, right? And these miners are being able to receive Bitcoin for their work in validating the transactions. And if, let's call it the whole world adopts Bitcoin as is, gold has been adopted, there's a significant growth potential.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Great question.
Okay, let's see real quick while we have you. There's a couple of questions. And some of these are just, what are your thoughts on this? Will Bitcoin devalue the American dollar or other international currencies, in your opinion?
Great question. I don't call myself an expert by any means, right? I think there's several different use cases as to where Bitcoin falls in. One of those use cases that's been talked about as a source of value, such as the U.S. dollar. From the research that I've done, I don't see that, and I'll explain why. I think Bitcoin and namely several other cryptocurrencies are much more volatile than some of the safe haven currencies, namely the U.S. dollar. And I think that that's not to take away from what the growth potential, what that means for Bitcoin and role of portfolios. I just don't see it taking away from what the U.S. dollar is for the world economy. Now, inside of that, if you look, there's another term, and I wonder if we have it. No, we don't have it. There's another type of coin that's called a stable coin. And these coins are token rewards that are tied to certain currencies like the U.S. dollar. I think those have some more potential than, let's say, Bitcoin or Ether or what have you. I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but I don't think that Bitcoin will be the leader in that space.
Right. Thank you, Matt. There is, and for the sake of time, I'm just going to pick one additional question. Are cryptocurrencies transferable into tangible assets? So, for example, can you cash out, into a US dollar, Japanese yen, Indian rupees? How easy is that, given the supply and demand issues and so much of the values that we see that tend to be overinflated? How easy does that, how easy can you cash out?
Yeah, great question. I think we're starting to see more and more of the technological advancements in that space, right? There's a couple different ways to think about it, but for us as individuals, right, there's a couple different ways that you can interact with, let's say, Bitcoin or Ether or Tether or what have you, right? You can go on those specific blockchains and transact on those specific blockchains and mine yourself, if you will, right? I feel like maybe most people on this call maybe that's not the route that they're trying to go. The other way to do it is through the exchanges. There are digital asset exchanges where you can transact in cryptocurrencies. So think of something like Coinbase, right? As kind of a leader in the space of being able to transact in the digital assets to convert your US dollars then into Bitcoin, if you will. So the world we live in today, I think, is advancing very quickly to allow for individuals to transact in cryptocurrencies. More and more financial institutions are allowing individuals to make that conversion and transact seamlessly across a number of different cryptocurrencies.
So Matt, for the sake of time, this has been awesome. And I think Adrian and I really did know that this was probably going to be the most popular of all of our sessions, because it's just something that many people are interested in cryptocurrencies, how they work, wrapping their heads around blockchains, or more questions on mining. But if you were to, spend the last bit of time that we have, is there any other slide? Is there any other thing that you think we really need to kind of understand?
I think, great tee up. I think, a lot of folks will see past returns and will look at this asset class and say, well, I need to have 10 to 15 to 20% of my portfolio in this specific asset class, right? The thing that I would caution is that this is an asset class that is in its early days and its infancy, right? Do we believe that there's transformative, growth potential? Absolutely. But this should be a small percentage of your portfolio, right? A small percentage that you are willing to accept the fluctuation, willing to accept the risk of loss, but knowing that there could be significant upside with the investment. And so if you hear, what I talked about today, if you've done your own research, and if you're excited about blockchain, if you're excited about digital assets, cryptocurrencies, just know of what you're getting into, what those risks entail. In a small percentage of your portfolio, right? 1 to 2.5 to 3% could potentially drive enormous returns, but that small percentage wouldn't have a dramatic impact in terms of your future goals. I think that's the biggest thing to keep in mind when you think about an asset class like this, which is at its early days and at its infancy.
No, that's awesome, Matt. I mean, obviously, you and I've talked about this, we share with our clients that, you got to be in it to win it. But when you look at your overall portfolio, just depending on how aggressive you are, really, even the most aggressive person should probably have maybe 5% in really alternative investments, right? In the asset class that are alt investments that include cryptocurrencies, but include some other things as well, just to have a piece of that. But I do think that, over time, it is something that we should be invested in. Now that I'm not making that recommendation, you all, but should it be something that is considered? Absolutely. So Matt, thank you so much for being available to us. We really, really appreciate it. I appreciate you stopping, and I know you're in the middle of traveling, and so we really appreciate your time and sharing this with us. Are you able by chance to share this presentation with us?
I can't, and the only reason why I can't is because it's what we call in our compliance world institutional use only.
Gotcha.
So they won't allow me to send it out. But if you Google Invesco and you Google digital assets, we have a lot of material out there that you can find that would be things like this to help kind of give it a picture of what we see in the space.
No, perfect. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time, and safe travels, Matt.
Thanks so
you.
much.
All
Take
right.
care, everybody.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
And then Adrienne, we
Yes.
also have, ladies, I know there's a ton of burning questions because I've received many of them, and they're all great questions. We are continuing this conversation, so we're bringing up one of our own, Miss Justine Lawrence, who is class of '99, who hopefully will fill in some gaps, but also give us the assignment. The assignment's not coming from us this time, on what we're going to do next. Okay, so Justine, hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
Right.
Awesome. We're so
Okay.
excited to have you.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Let me hide a couple controls. Okay, so tonight I'm going to talk about actually how to go ahead and get started in investing in cryptocurrency. So first, let me go ahead and start this slide. Now, I do want to let you know, I am not, this is for educational purposes only. I am not a financial advisor. I've just been learning cryptocurrency on my own, and these are some of the things that I've learned. So as always, as you all know, trading and investing is a risk, so always trade responsibly. Okay. So first I want to talk about how to invest. Now there's two different ways to do so. They're through exchanges, which is one is bitrex.com. Now Bitrex is an exchange where you can actually buy a cryptocurrency from an individual. It's different from an exchange, an online exchange like Coinbase, Crypto.com, or Robinhood, because what they do is they buy in bulk and you're actually buying from them. But with Bitrex, you can actually buy from an individual. You can buy any type of cryptocurrency, and I'll go more so into the different types. I'll do so shortly. And then you have what they call a wallet. Now, most online exchanges also are wallets. Now, what a wallet is a wallet will store your keys for you. So when you actually purchase a cryptocurrency, because it is it's basically a series of numbers. As Matt said, it's an exchange of like an online ledger. So what happens is when you buy a cryptocurrency, you're giving a key. You're given a private key and a public key. The public key is stored on all of the ledgers or all of the different computers on this particular blockchain network. The private key is your password per se, and only you know the private key. If this key is lost, you lose your money. So there are stories, for example, of a gentleman who had over $100 million in Bitcoin, and he lost his ledger, or he lost his keys, and so he lost his money. Now, with an online wallet such as Coinbase, Crypto.com, Robinhood, they actually store your keys for you. There are other ways to have your keys. You can do it with a online wallet or with a hardware wallet. Now, so when you buy from an online wallet, your keys they store your keys, and then you don't have to worry about storing them. When you so the online wallet will act as an exchange where you can actually purchase the cryptocurrency and it will store your keys. Now, when you are evaluating what types of wallets to purchase to use, or what type of online company to go with, there are three things I would look at. First, do they have hot and cold storage? So hot storage is when everything is stored on servers on a computer. Cold storage is, do they store some of the keys on offline? So if you look at companies like Robinhood.com and you look at their privacy policies, they will tell you that we store some of our keys online for immediate purchases, and then we store some of other keys in cold storage. So if they're ever hacked, the majority of the keys for their customers are not accessible. So you want to research that. Next, you want to make sure that the company has insurance. Some cryptocurrency wallets, such as Crypto.com and Robinhood, they actually provide up to $250,000 worth of insurance for their customers. So they are FDIC insured to a certain extent. So you want to research that and make sure that that is the case. And then you also want to make sure the company is reputable. How long have they been in business? You know, what's their history? Are they a big company? But there are probably hundreds, if not thousands, of ways to purchase cryptocurrencies through an online wallet. And then we have a hardware wallet. So the way that would work is you would buy your cryptocurrency online, and then you would store your keys in a hardware wallet. And as you see, this is a picture of a ledger. And a ledger is simply stated, it's a USB drive, and you connect it to your computer, take those keys or those passwords for your currency, and you would store it offline. So it's just like taking your money out of the bank and putting it in your bag and storing it in your house. Just make sure that if you do use a hardware wallet, that you put it someplace safe and you don't forget where it is, because if you end up with $100 million in Bitcoin and you lose it, that would be a sad day. Now, I want to talk about how to evaluate a cryptocurrency, and this is going to take me into the assignment. The best site to go to is coinmarketcap.com, and I'm actually going to take us there. So let me exit out of the presentation, and I'm going to go over this with you as if I were actually evaluating it with you. This is one of the most reputable sites, and it tells you a lot of details about each cryptocurrency. So when we go to coinmarketcap.com, this site will tell you about all of the new cryptocurrencies that are out there, all of the exchanges. If you even hear about a cryptocurrency, you'll find it here. So what I like to do is I like to just click on the cryptocurrencies tab, and it'll take us to a page that ranks all of the cryptocurrencies out there. So let me scroll down. So as you see, the top cryptocurrency, of course, is Bitcoin, because this is the first and this is the most popular. Now let's look at Bitcoin. So this is what I do when I evaluate a currency. First, if you look, it says coin. First, I evaluate, I question, is this a coin or is this a token? And you'll hear things like coins and tokens quite often. A coin is the blockchain technology. A coin is basically a currency created off the blockchain technology. It's the parent of them all. So for example, so when I say the blockchain technology, what I'm referring to is the peer-to-peer network and the actual code that is used to create that currency. And then you'll hear something called a token. Now, a token can be created by anybody in 15 minutes, literally. There are videos on YouTube that will actually show you how to create a token in 15 minutes. And what a token simply is, it's a currency created using someone else's blockchain. So for example, there are thousands of coins, thousands of tokens that use Bitcoin's blockchain. And by that, I mean they use Bitcoin's code and they use Bitcoin's network. So the blockchains will allow you to leverage their network and their blockchain technology to create tokens. So the parent is the Bitcoin, and then a token may be created off of that parent technology, because it's basically somewhat open source technology. that's highly secure. So anyone can create a token off of a coin. So first I look and I say, is it a coin or is it a token? If it's a coin, it's going to be more secure. It's a better investment than simply a token, because again, anybody can create a token, but coins are more stable. Coins have their own network. Coins have their own developers. And so coins are probably not going to go away overnight. Tokens, as I said, they can be created in 15 minutes. And so they can go away in 15 minutes. There's a popular term in the cryptocurrency community called a rug pull. And what that is where a company will get together, or a person will get together, create a token really quickly, advertise it, everyone runs and purchases it, it goes up, and then they pull all their money out of it after the creators, after it's created. So that's why I look at whether it's a coin or a token. Then what I do, and Matt talked about this partially, I look at the total supply versus the max supply. So if you see over here in this corner, we see the max supply of Bitcoin is 21 million, means Bitcoin is set to cap off at 21 million. It's never going to be created. They're never going to create any more. If I look at total supply, that is the supply that's currently in circulation. So right now it's 18,934,462 Bitcoin in circulation. So if you look at it, we're about 3 million Bitcoin away from not running out, because it'll still be in circulation, but from the point where there will be no more Bitcoin available. When the supply goes up and it reaches a point where it's almost at its max, of course, the dollar worth of that will go up. So as the supply goes up, the dollar worth will go up as we get closer to that max supply. Now, some cryptocurrencies do not have a max supply. Ethereum coin, for example, does not have a max supply. So we'll go over what to do in a second when we're looking at something that doesn't have a max supply. So I look at how far we are from the max supply. And then I also look at the volume. So we have had $23 billion worth of $23 billion worth. Again, one Bitcoin is worth right now $41,000, but this is if I were to translate that into dollars worth, $23 billion worth. The volume of Bitcoin circulation was $23 billion in a 24-hour period. So I look at that. I try to ensure that anything I'm purchasing has at least $10 million worth supply that was circulated in the last 24 hours. Why? Because if I want to get my money out, if I want to take my money out, I want there to be volume. I want there to be a way for me to get it back. If no one is buying and selling it, then I won't be able to get my money out of it. So I look at that. Now what I do. Yes, anybody have a question?
Go ahead, Justine. I'll
Okay.
ask it when you finish.
Okay. And then what I do is I look at the chart and I kind of see from like a 1 year to 3 year stand, how low is it on the chart? With any investment, you buy low, you sell high. So if it's relatively low on the chart, with the current price is relatively low, for example, Bitcoin earlier this year or earlier last year in November was at $67,000 per Bitcoin. Now we're down to 41,000. It could possibly go a little lower to 18,000, to 31,000. If it did that, that would be great. But you want to look at it when it's relatively low. Again, it's never a good idea to buy something when it's extremely high, because it will always retrace. Then finally, when I'm looking at a cryptocurrency to evaluate, I actually go to the website or I look at the white paper. Now, all of these cryptocurrencies have information about them on CoinMarketCap. And the reason I would actually go to the website or do a Google search on that cryptocurrency, it's because I want to see things like what technologies are used, what other, for example, Ethereum is used to support a lot of banking technologies. And so, you know, how is this blockchain being used in the world? Because the more that it's being utilized, the more innovative solutions that it's providing, that will also cause this cryptocurrency to go up. In addition, it also adds a little bit more validity to that cryptocurrency. Bitcoin is being used around the world. Some countries are using it as their currency. So we know that Bitcoin is pretty much relatively safe. If I were to look at Ethereum has no max supply, for example, meaning we will never run out of Ethereum. And that's probably why, even though it's been the second coin for the longest, it really hasn't gone up in value in comparison to Bitcoin. But again, a lot of banking technologies are leveraging the blockchain used by Ethereum. So basically, I researched the company. I also that created that technology. I also, I just kind of scroll through the top 20 and look at just various things about it, but mostly what are people saying about it? Is it being advertised? Is it in high circulation? Is it one of the top 10 or top 20? Now, some coins, there are thousands of coins, literally thousands of coins. Some coins are worth, not coins, there are thousands of tokens. There may be 100 coins, thousands of tokens. Some tokens are worth maybe 0.00001 cent. But if it rises up, if it goes up dramatically to $1, you're a billionaire. So I'll look at Shiba Inu. For example, I have Shiba Inu, and Shiba Inu is worth 0.0000271 dollars per Shiba Inu. I bought like $100 worth, $180 worth earlier last year. It had gone up to being worth $900 because it had gone up to 0.0008 earlier at the end of last year. So you can do well, but you have to be careful and you have to know what it is you are actually purchasing. No, like a token, I wouldn't put any more than a few $100s in a token. But a coin, I would probably look at for a long-term investment. So how do you actually purchase? There are several sites you can go on. The most popular site is coinbase.com. You can also buy from robinhood.com, as I mentioned before, crypto.com. Those are some of the more popular ones. If we go back to CoinMarketCap, let me show you, for example. CoinMarketCap, if you look at the site, it will show you all of the exchanges that you can use to purchase a particular coin. And it's on here in the data section. So, oh, there it is right there. My mistake.
It's 7 o'clock.
If you click on any coin and you go to exchange, it will show you all of the exchanges that you can use in the market tab. It will show you all of the different places that you can actually purchase that particular token or coin from. There are so many exchanges. I only go with the most highly rated exchange. So we have Coinbase, we have Haboy Global, Binance. If you look here, the confidence, if it says high, that means it's a more popular exchange. Again, exchanges can also be wallets, meaning that they also store your keys. I like Coinbase, so I'll show you how simple it is. So you go to Coinbase, you set up your username and password, and once you log in, for all of these exchanges now, the more highly rated ones, they are asking you to take a picture of your driver's license and sometimes enter your social security number into their system, and they say they only review that and they that it's safe. But I'm just letting you know to be careful what exchange you actually decide to purchase from, because in the US, you do have to upload your personal information. Now, if you get like a trust wallet or one of these wallets where you store your information on your phone or on a Trezor or a Ledger, they don't really too much care, you know, who you are, or even if you really exist. You can, as long as you have the money, they will take it, and you store your own keys. So there are some more legitimate ones, and there are ones that you can kind of get away with buying anything from. Okay, so if you were to go with a more reputable company like Coinbase, it's simple. You set up your account, you click on the buy sell button, and then you choose what cryptocurrency you want to buy. So if I were to select Bitcoin, or I can choose Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, like there's so many you can buy. You choose the type of cryptocurrency that you want to buy, and then you can actually pay with PayPal. You can pay with credit cards. It's really, really simple. Now, FYI, if you are paying with a credit card, many banks will decline your purchase, because they don't want because cryptocurrencies are still right now kind of iffy, and say they don't trust that it's a legitimate transaction. So let me show you. If I want to buy something, I put the amount, and then I choose what coin or token I want to buy. Just that simple. You select it. You can pay with PayPal. You can pay with a credit card. If I wanted to sell, I can do the same thing, as long as I have it in my wallet. If I select sell all, it will sell all of what I have. Then I select sell now, it goes back into the exchange, and then it's accessible for anyone. I don't want to do that. You can also, some websites will allow you to actually purchase with money that's available in your Coinbase account. Coinbase is the most popular, and so Coinbase is the only one that will allow you to purchase with that money. So it's really, really simple, as long as you're using a reputable company. Now, some companies like Coinbase, even though you purchase from them in their online wallet, they will allow you to take your keys with you and store them on a hardware wallet. So some of them will allow you to take them offline, even the more reputable ones. Finally, let's see. If you don't feel comfortable purchasing cryptocurrencies, you can buy non-fungible tokens from sites like OpenSea or Rarible. And what non-fungible tokens are basically digital assets like songs or pictures that actually have a minted key that make them unique to a certain extent. If I wanted to take a picture of myself and I feel like people want to purchase it, I can mint it and make, let's say I want to make 10 copies available. I can sell each of those copies for $100, $200, $1,000. Some of them have gone for millions of dollars. People sell assets such as baseball cards. Panini.com sells baseball cards. Who else? NBA Top Shot sells NBA cards. The NFL is getting into selling cards as well. But so many companies are getting into selling non-fungible tokens, and basically it's artwork or digital asset that people are using as collector's items, so that now they can actually people trade them or use them as art.
I feel like we need to spend time on those, Justine, just in and of themselves. And then just for the sake of time, and then your next point was stocks related to Bitcoin, because I know people have some questions, so I want to make sure that we can answer a few questions. So that we can move on.
So there are stocks related to Bitcoin that you can use to actually still get involved if you want to continue to trade on the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. So what you would do, you look at companies like mining companies. There's Bit Mining, Bit Digital, Riot Blockchain. Just do a Google search on any stock related to Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. Silvergate Capital is a company that actually focuses on cryptocurrency. It's a bank. And then they have cryptocurrency apps. Voyager Digital is one of them. But that's a way that you can get involved in cryptocurrencies where you don't have to actually purchase a cryptocurrency. There are Trust Capital is one of them where you can actually invest your retirement into cryptocurrencies. I wouldn't invest that. I wouldn't suggest that unless you do something that's a coin such as Bitcoin or Ethereum. But I would never do it with the token because those could be a fly-by-night thing.
Awesome.
Any questions?
Yes, there are quite a few questions, Justine. One thing, are you able to make your presentation available to us so
Yes,
that we can share as a resource? Okay, great. That'd be awesome. If you can email that to me, that would be great, Justine.
Will do.
Also, ladies, I know as part of the assignment, and we're going to get to a couple of questions here, but as part of the assignment, you can actually go to the exchanges that Justine mentioned and actually buy cryptocurrency based on, the research that she put out there. She actually said, hey, one of the questions earlier we didn't get to were mining companies. Are there mining companies? And she showed you that there are some companies you can buy stock in. And so the other thing I would say is that, there are two that I know of right now of crypto ETFs. Fidelity has an ETF that you can buy, has crypto ETFs, and as does Invesco, so the company Matt's with, who presented early on for us, also has ETFs that you can buy. So maybe you don't feel that comfortable actually going into and following what Justine talked about. Well, hey, ETFs, which trade, exchange traded funds, they're funds that hold crypto. So you don't have as much of that exposure that you would do, so you would get a bit more diversified and own, someone asked about fractional shares. So you would own like fractional shares, right, of ETFs in different cryptocurrencies. So those are just some additional things that maybe you're not comfortable going on Coinbase yourself, but you could actually do that. Couple of questions, just real quick. Adrian, did you have something on a question earlier?
I put something in the chat because someone was asking, why haven't the wealthy purchased all the Bitcoins, right? And I thought that was a great question. And I would say, the wealthy may be a little bit less risk averse, number one. They also have a lot more options in which to put their assets. So Bitcoin, as they mentioned, it hasn't been around that long. So there's still, it's still new ground for putting a lot of money into it. But I think that what you will see happen, especially for Bitcoin, because they're reaching their max, you'll probably see that rise, as we go into maybe another year or two is what I would predict, where it will get sucked up, because then the price is going to shoot way up because only those who have it can trade it.
And hey, Justine, we have some questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
Just to piggyback off what Adrian just said, when you sell, when you do sell, do you receive coins, tokens, or cash when you're getting out? So if I own some ether and I sell, some of the ether that I own, am I getting back more ether coins? Am I getting tokens, or am I getting cash?
It depends on how you purchase it. So let's say I purchase a token, and that token is built on Bitcoin's blockchain. Then when I sell, I would get Bitcoin back. And then what I would do is go to another wallet or online company and exchange my Bitcoin for that dollar amount. So it depends on what you're purchasing. I can easily sell Bitcoin because it's a coin and get dollars back. But in order to buy a token, I have to convert it into that blockchain technology. And then from there, I would get that blockchain technology back. So if I were buying something based upon Ethereum, when I buy, I have to convert it to Ethereum from dollars, and then when I sell, it's returned back to Ethereum, and I then convert that back to dollars.
How long have you been involved in crypto?
Heavily for about a year, but I've been doing a lot of research. I'm with a group where we actually trade, invest in crypto, and I've been doing some things on my own. And really, I've been learning and teaching myself and watching videos and all of that.
Awesome. Awesome.
And Shastine, I want to just point out the risk. I'm on the risk train right now, right? So for our group, I think that, investing in the stocks that trade Bitcoins would be good. EFTs would be good as well, because Shastine, she has been doing this for about a year herself, but it does kind of have, in order to make money consistently, it has kind of a day trading feel. Would you agree, Shastine? Because you really need to pay attention to what's happening.
It depends on what you're buying. If you're buying Ethereum or Bitcoin, that's something that's trustworthy enough for you to hold on to.
Okay.
If you're buying a token, which is an alternative coin, as they say, then that's something you may want to consider getting in low and getting out when it gets relatively at a peak, and not holding on to for a long time, because again, it's not a blockchain technology. It's built on blockchain, and it may not be as safe. And then they can always do a rug pull. But again, that's where you research the technologies that are behind these coins and determine, what's safer. But in general, I wouldn't put my life savings into a cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin or not. Diversify everything.
That was a really good question and a really good answer. The other thing I would say, ladies, one of the things we talked about early on is volatility. And so this is going to be the last point before we move on to our presentations for this evening. But volatility is how up and down an asset is, right? And so if that asset is very volatile or above what they call one, so if one is, where the world is, and anything above one, it's volatile, right? And so if you think about, just, treasuries, government bonds, that is probably, has like a volatility of like 2. If you think about this, buying into the stock market, the volatility is probably like a 5 or 6. But if you think about cryptocurrencies, that volatility is probably going to be above 16, closer to 25. There's a lot of movement. Part of that is still new. Part of that is, the price movements on some of this stuff. And yes, it does react. One of the questions earlier was, is there, a reaction to things that go on? And yes, there is, some, news risks that, stuff that's going on in the economy. So there are different things that do trigger that volatility or that movement. But it does tend to be, in terms of the assets that you can purchase, very, very volatile at this point. Okay. And Gerald, I think, had a question. Gerald, the last question.
Oh gosh. Well, okay. Let me think back. That, like, you can purchase slices of stocks. The top Bitcoins are obviously quite cost prohibitive. If there's such a thing as purchasing slices, like you can with stocks.
Yes. So basically, you're purchasing whatever you can, whatever amount relates to $1. So for example, if I put in $100 worth of Bitcoin, it would be like 0.00001 Bitcoin, right? So you can slice it up similar to stocks. Also, someone asked about different type, I think, free cryptocurrency. I'm not sure if there's a cryptocurrency called free. For anything, go to coinmarketcap.com and then search on the cryptocurrency in the search window, and you'll find it. Also, cryptocurrencies move in relation to Bitcoin. So if you look at a Bitcoin chart and you see Bitcoin is high, within a few weeks, the majority of the market will go up. If, for example, a coin is based upon a token's based upon that coin, if that coin goes up, eventually in a week or two, the token will go up. So that's a way you can kind of predict what's going to happen. Right now, Bitcoin is low, relatively low. And so a lot of cryptocurrencies, the majority have kind of gone down. So this is a good time to look at and evaluate, what cryptocurrency you might want to buy while they're all low. But for the most part, they seem to follow the Bitcoin wave, and that's a way you can kind of evaluate, whether it's time to purchase.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Christine, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank
All
you.
right, ladies, that was amazing information that we've gotten. And so I hope it is valuable in how we evaluate what this assignment is and what it can do for y'all's team portfolios, okay? We want to move on. We've got some presentations on some IPO stock. And I'm sorry, Adrian, did you say something?
No.
Okay, we've got some awesome presentations, so I hope you're ready. I think for each team, we have allocated really like 5 to 7 minutes in your presentation for tonight, but we're going to be hearing from True Blue novices tonight, Goal Get Hers, and Square One, Team Square One. We're hearing from you guys tonight. And so in that order, True Blue novices, if you guys are ready to go, please, please, please come on down.
All right, so I guess I'll speak on behalf of True Blue. We had to take a small hiatus this last go round. I'm so sorry, I should have probably put that email to you, Jennifer.
Okay. All right. So, okay.
For our groups.
Okay.
Personal, really, where we were with things back in December. We just needed to take a small hiatus, and we needed to defer this particular go round.
Okay. All right. Well, then moving on, let's go Get Hers. If you guys are ready, we would love to hear from you.
Jackie, do you want me to share? You're going to share.
She's on mute.
Would you mind sharing, Catalina? Just a sec.
Hello and good evening. I don't see the slide. There it is. Can everyone see the slides?
Yes.
Great, and welcome and good evening. I'm Catalina Edwards, a member of the Goal Get Hers, because we are go-getters, and we are excited to have the opportunity to present this evening on our initial public offering, which is New Holdings Ltd. I'm excited that we are part of a fabulous team of Spelman sisters ranging from across several decades. And what we've learned over the month or so that we've been working, several months we've been working together, is that we're novice investors, and we're all excited to be a part of this journey. And we've learned a lot from each other, and certainly from the collective. And we appreciate Atlanta Alumni Chapter for engaging us in this this project. And we're really excited. And so what we'll do is that we're going to spend some time this evening chatting a little bit about kind of our strategy of the company that we decided to invest our dollars in, and that's New Holdings Ltd. And what you'll see is that we did some initial research really on identifying which initial public offerings would be forthcoming. And what we did is we actually, with the group, we meet every Sunday, same time, same place. And what we did was that we individually went forth and did some research, brought to the committee, to the team, some companies of interest. And the company of interest that we decided on mutually was New Holdings. We simply believe that, and it's ironic that we're having a conversation around cryptocurrency and digital assets, because the company we did select is a financial technology business or fintech. And a part of what we saw in the research was that this is certainly an emerging technology, not only within the domestic market here in the US, but in an untapped market in Latin America. And we can see that there's been quite a bit of growth in the Latin American market for banking, online banking. And so, and as a result, that's one of the many reasons why we selected this company to showcase.
Just to give you a little bit of a background on our company, New Holdings was founded in 2013. It's the parent company of New Bank. They are, as Catalina mentioned, an early stage technology company focused on financial technology. They provide a digital banking platform, and they provide that in a market. They started in Brazil, and that was a market where there was a lot of very traditional banking companies, and they were one of the very, very first fintech companies in that market. They offered a really low cost banking option to customers. They actually went in 2014, their first product was a credit card, which was basically a no cost credit card, which was really unheard of at that time. At the time, the Latin American market or the Brazilian market was dominated by 5 large banks, and they charged tons of fees, and New Holdings was able to go in and charge almost nothing for their credit cards. In that time, since that time frame, they've become the largest low-cost credit card company in Latin America, and they are continuing to grow. They have expanded from Brazil into Mexico and other Latin American countries. And they are also, although they're based in Brazil, they are incorporated in the Cayman Islands, and they are continuing to grow throughout Latin America. Some of their competition, really, when they went into the market, their biggest competitors were large traditional banks. Itaú Unibanco, I hope I'm saying that right, was one of the biggest banks that was their competitor. They offered commercial and retail banking products. And when New Holdings originally went into the market, they were not allowed to offer banking products. They just essentially went in with credit cards, but they have since expanded since that time period. Banco Bradesco is also a competitor, again, one of those 5 very large banks in Brazil, and New Holdings really been able to hold their own and chip away at the market share in those banks. Catalina, next slide. There are also some fintech companies entering their marketplace. SoFi is a very large financial technology company that started focusing on high-income Americans, but has also since moved into other markets. And there are also a couple of copycats, eBanks, Guia Bolso, and PagSeguro, which I hope I'm pronouncing correctly, are also some copycat fintech companies that have entered the Brazilian market starting in 2019. Next. You're muted, Catalina.
In addition to looking at some of the competitors in the market, we wanted to also do a little bit of research on the background of the company. And one of the things that we did was we started looking at the founder, David Velez, who just did a fantastic, there was an article in Forbes magazine on his kind of rags to riches story. He is a legacy entrepreneur, comes from a family in Latin America whose dad had a company, came to America to get an MBA from Stanford, and really just wanted to kind of put a stake in the ground. Because we do think that in part, a part of investing in companies is really investing in the people behind companies. It's kind of like really understanding their story and their passion for what they do. And just an amazing story. And he went on to work in the tech industry, work in the financial industry for many years before he decided to do his own startup. I can say another competitive strength in terms of this particular company is the investment in the IPO was backed by Berkshire Hathaway. And we know the dollars that the Berkshire Hathaway folks have. And so we thought, just based on confidence and reputation, that this certainly would be a good investment. And to Jackie's point, certainly one of the largest and most profitable banks in Latin America. Another thing that we considered in terms of the competitive strengths of this company was not only just the Latin American market, but also as we look at immigration in America, we see a lot of Latin Americans who are coming to the stateside to work, but we also know that there's quite a bit of transaction that they're engaged in as they send their dollars back to their home countries, Brazil, Chile, Argentina, and the like. Even Belize, Central America, which is a place that I'm near and dear to my heart. And so those are some of the other benefits, if you will, competitive strengths.
Okay, so we are an investment club and we're about the numbers. And so let's talk about that. So again, as has been shared, the company was founded in 2013 and the last quarterly reportings were in September of 21. And the revenue was up at 252.51 million. And that was an increase of year over year of 154.64%. That's a positive. And as we know with new businesses, that there are some times when things aren't always on the uptick. And so there are some negative numbers to report as well. The net income is down. It is negative 34.21 million, which year over year is only down 5.7%. And again, we found that this particular platform was backed by some heavy hitters, including Warren Buffett. And we're in it for the long run. Stocks is not something that you buy today, sell tomorrow. So we understand that as the company grows and gets settled and matures, that there's going to be, to get to that point, there's going to be some loss. And so we're operating under that. It was also interesting because we found the company prior to it actually went public. And so we were waiting. It was really fun. It was fun because we were waiting and texting each other, okay, go, go, go. And so we all purchased at the $9 range and some 10. And it went pretty quickly to 9 and 10, and then it went down. And so I think a part of this program is for us to learn. And so what I learned and how that behavior happened, because now it's down, that when I prepared this slide, it was on the 14th and it was at $8.12 as you see, and is now in the $7 range. So ladies, it's for sale, it's on sale rather. And, but we're not afraid of that. We're here for the long haul and we're confident that it's going to rebound up. It's projected to go up to 12. And, but here we have, it was opened on the 9th at, like I said, we purchased it initially at 10.3. And then the highest it has traded since going public, it was on the 10th at 11.85. And again, and Jennifer, I would love to hear your insight on that. If that's traditional, that when you have something, a hot tip or a hot stock coming out, if it's a typical that when it comes out, it goes, because there's a lot of activity, it goes high and then it actually settles down to what it will be naturally. Because as I said, now it's at 7. This slide was at 8.12 and now it's at 7. We're not afraid of that. As you see also on the bar at the bottom here, well, I can't control it. Not only was our stock down, but the Dow Jones was down that time, and so was stocks in the financial services category. So we were trending. It wasn't as if our stock was down and others in that category were on the uptick. So we are not afraid of what's happening. We're confident and we're in for the long haul with new holdings.
Good.
Love it. Go get hers. That's so awesome. I really appreciate you ladies. That was really, really great. And yes, Renee, that actually, if you take a look at most IPO stocks, most will the day that they are IPO, that they come out, usually that day and then the next few days will be the highest, when they then will come down and you will see things settle down and people, us consumers will move on to the next shiny and new thing we can move on to. But it is very, very, if you look at any new IPO stock, that is very, very much the case, where they're going to have an initial, the price, they'll have a pop upwards, and then you'll see for the next 6 months to a year that they will go below that price that they IPO'd at. But then you'll start to see that where their trading will start to kind of, I won't say, it's going to level out, but it will begin to show a leveling. So yes, so IPOs tend to be something that I think people hold on to because of that. Unless you're, somehow affiliated or were able to get in at that very, very special price, and then can sell, at the high in the next, 1 to 2 days of where it's trading when it first IPOs. For the most part, it's going to be a buy and hold for a little bit because of that. There's going to be some levelization and stability in the price that has to happen. So yeah, I'm glad you noticed that.
Yes.
And I was hoping we'd hear a little bit more about that. So, no, that was great. What was the most challenging thing you guys found about this exercise, this assignment?
Probably making a decision on which company. I mean, we were ranging from logistics companies, and we still are interested in doing some more of that. And so, yeah, deciding on where to put our bank, and then just trying to find some research on the company and the founders, I would say.
And then making a little bit of a decision, because you don't have a lot of background, like a ton of financial background, like you would a more established company. They don't, print a lot of financial data for an IPO. So we were, just kind of basing it based on some of the people that were backing it and other types of things. So it was a little bit of a challenge thinking about, where is this going to go in the long term, because you don't have that background.
I'm going to ask you all a question. You all did a great job, and I love IPOs and they always go down. So did you all take a look at or spend a little bit more time on the strategic outlook that they had for the company?
Well, one of the things that we were excited about is the founder and sort of his approach to that market. The Brazilian market had been really very traditional, very, staid, I guess. And just his level of innovation, I thought, was really interesting. And it seemed like he was going to bring something to the table that was more innovative, more Silicon Valley-like. And so really his strategy was kind of to come in low, starting with a no-cost credit card, really not making a ton of money at the very beginning, and then really starting to add on features and add on products. They didn't originally have they weren't approved for banking originally, but they have since added on things like loans. He's got an overall strategy that, okay, I may not make this money on the credit card, but hey, they're going to start doing home loans. They're going to start doing personal loans. They're going to start, I think they just got into the insurance business. So they do have an overall strategy of how they're going to add on things that are much more profitable, because right now their original goal was to just eat away at that market share of those traditional banks. So we like that a lot.
We also like the fact that he is he's aiming to be a disruptor for personal reasons. He was literally in the bank, and it was such a long line, and he thought it was so disrespectful how they were treating people. And it's like, there has to be a better way. And it was also interesting to us and exciting to me that we were investing in a product in another country, so as egotistical Americans, we can always think that we have it right. and that everything that we need is right here. But it was nice to look and see how things are done in another country and how that they are disrupting the industry and they're leading. And it's interesting to see what they're going to do next, and we're a part of that.
It's great. Well done.
Well done, ladies. That was excellent. So excited for you all. Okay, I just want to quickly ask, because I know we are running a little bit tight on time today. So I just wanted to see if by chance Spelman, the Spelman Blue Chicks would be available to present this evening.
I think so. Is everybody? Yeah, we're ready. Spelman Blue Chicks, we're ready, right? They're on.
Yes.
I'm sure
Yes.
they are. Okay.
Well, thank you, ladies. I
Someone bring
appreciate
it
it.
up? I don't know, Robin, or can someone? I didn't really. Can someone bring it? It's on the share drive.
Simone, this is Kimberly. I'll go ahead and share it, okay?
Thanks, Kimberly.
Give me just a second. All right, give me just a second. It's pulling up now. Uh-oh. Can you all see this, the PowerPoint? What about if I move my screen? Can you all still see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Oops.
There you go. Okay. All right. Thanks, Kimberly.
Uh-huh.
So, okay, I can go ahead and kick us off. So our team, we are Spelman Blue Chicks, and which consists of myself, Simone, also Tracy and Cameron, our newest member, Tiffany, Kimberly, and Robin. And like usual, each of us will probably present a little bit of what we have researched about our particular, about our IPO. So, okay. So to begin with, in selecting and evaluating an IPO, initially we just kind of scoured the web researching. We were all in agreement. Initially, we were interested, we were trying to find an African-American IPO to invest in. So looking at the first block there, we researched, those were the different sites that we researched. We started out with afrotech.com. Very interesting website. If you guys look at it, they pretty much highlight African-American, Black, minority companies, not just IPOs, but companies in general. So if you haven't, you might want to check them out. Of course, we also looked at NAASC, Yahoo Finance, IPO investor page. Although it's not here, it's not on this particular slide, but we also looked at marketwatch.com quite a bit because on that site, I believe they had the IPO calendar. And then next, we talked about the characteristics. I know one of the guidelines that that Adrian and Jennifer had asked us to do was to look at IPOs that had just come out within the last 3 months. So that was one of our guidelines we looked at. We also looked at the market cap. We looked at the valuation, and we looked at 20%. Let's see, 20% current market. Another thing we looked at was an IPO, once it hit the market, that we wanted to make sure that as the days and weeks went on, that it stayed within 20% of the current market price, or the offering price, I guess I should say. We looked at revenue growth, competition, and then we also looked at the 52-week high and low. And then the final block, our final list, or a short list, we narrowed it down to those IPOs there. Backblaze, that, if I recall, that was a cloud storage IPO that had recently gone to market. Fresh Grapes, which was really kind of interesting. Actually, it's not Fresh Grapes. I'm sorry. It's called Fresh Vine, I believe it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. But that was a low carb wine company that had recently IPO'd as well. We looked at Nextdoor. It's a neighborhood app. Many of you guys may be familiar with. We also looked at Rent the Runway, online clothing company, designer, clothes, and I think it's an app that they use. I believe that was Robbins. I can't remember if it was an app, but it was an online clothing company. We also looked at Samsara, which is a cloud storage IPO. We looked at Rivian, electric vehicle. We also looked at Sweet Green, which was a salad, I believe that was a salad company. And then we also looked at Weave, and Weave was one of our top contenders as well. It's a software company that was actually led by a Black CEO. So I'll let you take a guess if you can, from that short list, if anybody can guess which IPO we actually selected. I'll wait. And
Rent the Runway.
okay, that's a good guess. That's a good guess.
Rivian.
Rivian. Yeah.
Yeah, actually we did. We went with Rivian, but Rent the Runway was definitely high on our list. So this pretty much summarizes how we evaluated and selected our IPO. And next up, I will hand it over to Tracy, I believe it is.
Thank you. So as Simone mentioned, we finalized on Rivian, or I can't say we finalized on it. We had to take a vote, and because there was discussion about two IPOs, which we'll get into later, a second option. But our first option that got the most votes was Rivian, and it develops and manufactures electric adventure vehicles. It offers 5-passenger pickup trucks and sports utility vehicles. The company provides electric SUVs and electric, goodness, that's a duplicate. The company was founded in 2009 and is based in San Jose, California. It has additional facilities in Irvine, Carson, and Palo Alto, California, Normal, Illinois, Woking, United Kingdom, Plymouth, Michigan, Vancouver, Canada, and Whitman, Arizona. And soon there will be one in Georgia as well. Rivian did its IPO on November 9th, 2021, and began trading on NASDAQ the day after. And their mission is to keep the world adventurous forever. Rivian is derived from Indian River, and it has 700 plus employees currently. They are beginning by electrifying trucks and SUVs, which are often the most polluting vehicles on the road for people who want to stay active and require a ride that is capable of handling every kind of terrain skillfully. They combined electrification with self-driving capabilities and intelligent features to inspire people to truly explore the world in new ways. Next slide.
And I'll take this one, Tracy. And so one of the things that we talked about during our presentation, or during the overview, was to look at kind of the overall landscape. So that was one of the things that we took a look at as well. And so we thought about some of the drivers for Rivian that, there are corporate and government initiatives that are really focused on climate change and human-induced climate change and our impacts. So, but there's also, private citizens who are very interested in that, to reduce your green footprint. So, you know, looking long term, this is a space where people would be interested. And Cameron will talk more about that on her slide. One of the other things that we took a look at that was interesting to us was, you know, kind of who were some of the backers. And if you've been keeping up with the news, this has been kind of an interesting change in the past few days. But Amazon, that was one of the things that attracted us to this, was the largest Rivian shareholder, and they had 20% as of October. And they placed an order for 100,000 delivery vans. So they wanted to, or, you know, that was kind of one of the main first orders of commercial electronic vehicle vans for the company. They had some private orders as well. And they have a member of Amazon who is on the board of directors. So, you know, those things in terms of their commitment to the company were attractive to us, as well as Ford is another partner. They are a shareholder with Rivian, and they are a supplier of parts, but you may have seen recently in the news that they had a seat on the board and they have relinquished that seat. So as with, you know, new companies, things change. So we just have to, again, go back to being comfortable with the overall picture and landscape there. And then, of course, we also took a look at some of the competitors. Won't lift up all of them, but just want to talk about, you know, Ford again. So yes, they're a supporter, but Ford also has, you know, they have their own automobiles, and they have their own electronic vehicles that they are trying to develop. So they're on both sides of the house, you know, but that is something that is not necessarily uncommon. And then Stellantis, want to definitely mention that one because, you know, if you've been following the Rivian stock, you might have seen volatility, which we'll, I'm sure, address later. Some of that came on the heels of the announcement that Amazon is kind of hedging its bets and is not putting all of its eggs in one electronic vehicle manufacturer, but they're also supporting Stellantis too, and that is backed by Chrysler and a French company. But those were just some of the things that we looked at in terms of the competition, the competitive space. And I think I will kick it over to Cameron. I think that she is next up. No
Oh,
problem.
actually, that might be mine.
That's you. Yeah, sorry, Simone.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So, okay, so with Rivian, I think Rivian, we were really excited when Rivian first IPO. They IPO'd initially, I think I believe the first day was at $78 a share. And, you know, looking at the chart, we were tracking it every day, and they remained strong for the first 5 weeks. I've got that bar chart there, and we tracked them. We were tracking them every day, but for just for the sake of trying to provide a visual of their performance, I thought it would be a good idea to post their results on a weekly basis from the point that they IPO, which I believe it was November 8th, first week of November, I believe it was. So like I said, they were really strong in the first 5 weeks, ranging between, their price was between $130 through $115. So right around the week of Christmas, we chose Rivian right around, I think it was like the 26th. I went back and looked at my email. So it was a couple of days after Christmas. As a group, we selected Rivian, and then having watched them for like the first 4 or 5 weeks, you know, on a high in the triple digits, then they started to slowly decline. So we were texting each other and you know, kind of concerned. I was kind of concerned initially. But then, you know, we were all just saying, nope, we're in this for the long run. My husband kept saying, hey, you don't invest for the day, you don't invest for the month, you invest for the long term. So I had to put my big girl pants on and just kind of realize, okay, we're in this for the long run. So I listed here some of the highlights from the headlines looking at Rivian, because their stock did start to decline. And I think today was at its lowest. I believe it was at $69. So we went from $130 the first day they closed at $130. And then today, when I checked, we were at $69. So again, we're in it for the long run. Some of the, I'll start with the negative impacts that we believe may have negatively impacted the stock price. Well, the R1T trucks, they had a delay. They delayed the delivery until 2023. And that was mainly because they were having some supply chain issues. I know around third quarter, I think it was around mid-December when they had their investor call, and we learned that they announced that Rivian was having some supply chain issues, and it was mainly due to the battery packs that went inside those R1T trucks. You know, being made out of China, not just Rivian, but all of the electric vehicle companies were experiencing that as well. Tesla was as well, but I think Tesla, they got a little smart and they started to, they figure out a way to make their own. They started to make their own, they did something with the software and they started manufacturing their own battery packs. So they got really smart with it. But Rivian wasn't the only one that experienced the problem with the battery packs, but that's definitely one of the reasons why we started to see the stock price drop. Just having overall, you know, production issues. And then they were supposed to deliver, I believe, 1,000. Amazon, they had promised 1,000 trucks. They had an order in with Amazon for 1,000 trucks. And they just announced recently that by the end of December 2021, that they actually delivered 920 of the R1T. So they were just short of that. So a few other events that also occurred that kind of negatively affected their stock price. The CCO ended up resigning. That wasn't a good sign. That made me nervous. I think that made all of us a little nervous. But again, we decided that we're going to stick with it. And then also the partnership that Amazon announced with Stellantis. I believe Robin has spoke a little bit about that. So, I mean, it was interesting because when I looked it up, I found that, well, we have an exclusive, Rivian had an exclusive relationship with Amazon, but yet Amazon didn't really have an exclusive relationship with Rivian. So we kind of joked about that among our group. You know, we just talked about it like, you know, a relationship you would have with a boyfriend or something. So anyway, we found that interesting. But with all the other events that were going on that negatively impacted Rivian's stock, we also looked at the upside, the fact that the Georgia plant that was announced, actually that won't open until 2024. And then also with Rivian, they were actually, initially, I think they were the 6th largest IPO, but then later I read that they were actually the 7th largest IPO in 2021. So a lot of people, a lot of investors were initially feeling very optimistic. And I think they're still feeling pretty optimistic about Rivian. And then also with Amazon having a 20% stake, we feel pretty positive about that. So that's why we put that center image in the middle. In spite of the decline in the stock price, we still remain, we're pretty bullish with Rivian, and we're going to stick with it. So that's pretty much the performance. And in that headline I put there in the title, no pain, no gain. So now is the time to buy because the stock is low. So if you're interested, now is the time to buy. We just believe once they start rolling the trucks off the market, once they start producing the trucks, they get the battery packs, there's always going to be a demand. There's going to be a pretty high demand for these electric vehicles. So we strongly believe that they're going to do well. And so that pretty much summarizes the performance. I think, who's next? Cameron, I think.
Hey guys. Can you hear me? Hi, Jen. Hey, Adrian. Hey, Blue Checks. So excited to present this slide. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna start. Okay, so I'm new to this whole thing, you guys. I love this club, it's amazing. I was tasked to research the investment sector and the industry. So this is some info that I found on electric vehicles. So they're a part of the consumer discretionary sector. We were trying to decide if they were technology or if they were the automotive industry. But I think because there's only 13 sectors, they go into, because Tesla, I believe, is also a consumer discretionary. So we put it in that category as far as the sector. So these days, with climate change and everyone really focused on environmental impacts that we make on a day-to-day basis, we think that, or not even us, but I guess the world is trying to get more into sustainable ways of living and energy, et cetera. So it's deemed the green tidal wave. Tidal wave, something really big happening right now, green energy. So clean technology and green energy. This is a very vast growing industry, you guys. So it encompasses multiple sectors to reduce our environmental impact. Also, it has the government backing, right? With Obama, he gone now, y'all. Biden's Build Back Better plan. His infrastructure plan to refocus on green energy. The funding, he's also funding electric vehicle projects and giving tax credits that aid wind, solar, and other renewable energy products. So I think, during the last presidency or the last administration, climate change and these type of projects weren't high priority. So from an investor perspective, not having government backing didn't seem like a good time to invest in clean energy companies. But now that we have this new administration, the demand for these type of companies or for stocks for these types of companies has increased because they know that if the government gonna get behind them, then it should probably do well, right? So hesitations for the EV industry, so it's called EV, electric vehicle. I'm sorry, I'm shopping. Investors, so I think I already said this. They're waiting on an adoption of green technology to accelerate before heavily investing into this market, right? So I think with that government backing, we will see more money going into this industry. Girl, leave me alone. And so then, yes, they will start investing more then. Also a big hesitation, right? Like we see a whole bunch of Teslas, but that's about all, right? But actually there's a whole bunch of different companies that are making electric vehicles like right now, and all the companies that are already making, gas vehicles, they're already starting to get on the board or get on the train for this as well, which I'm gonna talk about in just a second. But the hesitation as well is it's still so very new. So it's gonna take about 5 to 6 years or more before the newer EV companies deliver on their vehicles, and especially at scale. So that's one thing that Elon Musk has successfully been able to work on and to conquer, is actually getting those. And I think they actually just rallied or popped or something. They went up a little bit because they were able to deliver over 300,000 electric vehicles in their Q4, which was more than they were expecting. So he's definitely like a pioneer in this space, but it's not only for Tesla, right? Like the market is bigger and will be bigger, and he's not always going to be, or Tesla's not always going to be the leading, well, they might be the leading, but the primary company in this space. So, but we just don't know because all the other EV makers are still so early in their production processes, so they don't really know how long it's going to be until these things do happen to scale. So those are some hesitations, but let me talk about the certainties, right? So Ford and General Motors, I don't know why I wrote GM Motors, but General Motors, they both plan to increase their electric vehicle production in the near future. And analysts are predicting that electric vehicle cars will make up 20 to 30% of all vehicles by 2030, which is like at the end of the decade, y'all, like 20%. I was like, wow. And supported by, what did I write right there? I got to scroll down. Supported by increase in demand. Yes, so this is also supported by increase in demand in American and Chinese markets. And everybody keeps talking about how the Chinese market is growing and it's going to take over, et cetera. So it's not just in America, it's worldwide that the electric vehicle industry is starting to take off. And I do believe, I didn't write it here, but I think it was Ford that said by 2035, they plan to, or maybe it was General Motors, one of those two companies, by 2035, they plan to only make electric vehicles. So this is a space that, like they said, like Simone said, if you haven't bought, which I haven't bought, so my team like, Kimmy, we gonna get in there, but I had to set my account up and do all that other stuff. You know, I got to change the funds and stuff. But anyways, I'm like waiting for, I was like, well, when is it gonna go down? It's gonna keep going down. So like, can I just wait a little bit longer? So just let me know what my deadline is because it's going down. Thank you.
All right.
Love
Good
it.
evening again, ladies. So let me know, can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So our second IPO choice was Samsara. So we finalized it down to 2 IPOs and then pretty much just gave our argument as to which one we were going to choose. Samsara was the one we were considering, but ended up with Rivian. So just a little bit about Samsara. So Samsara is considered to be a pioneer of what we consider industrial Internet of Things. So when you think about the Internet of Things, think about your connectivity. Literally on my phone, I receive text messages, emails, calls. I'm able to scan. I'm able to use it as a remote control. So you think about the connectivity. There's so much more that we're able to do now with even like thinking about Alexa and or Siri. It all kind of connects to make our lives easier. So now think about the ease of connectivity, and now think about large freight carriers, city governments, thinking about the DMV, waste transportation companies, heavy transport companies. When you think about these types of companies, the first thought is, all of that stuff is how they operate is so antiquated, right? Mm-hmm. They're typically paper, pen, and it's like an act of Congress to make one small change. So Samsara is essentially coming in to kind of change that, right? They IPO'd on December 15th of 2021. And it IPO'd at $24.90. Right now, today, and as we've noticed, IPOs, when they do IPO, the prices do slightly decline. So right now it is valued at $20.35, the actual price of the stock. I liked Samsara. We like Samsara because in their initial stages, they raised $805 million and had a valuation of almost $11 billion. So currently they have 500 million in annual recurring revenue, which is really good considering the fact that they're still a very new company. As I mentioned to you, the companies that they're looking to transform are the large freight carriers, city government, which needs a complete overhaul, waste transportation companies, and this heavy transport companies. So the bigger reason, and I'll try to wrap this up, the bigger reason we did decide to go with Rivian versus Samsara was because Samsara uses Amazon's AWS web hosting, and Samsara pretty much admitted, hey, if Amazon decides to pretty much take over or pretty much decides to do exactly what we're doing, our value proposition. If they begin to offer the same value proposition, we're no-go. We're no longer even competitive, right? And so that is a little scary, because you're thinking about, and I think a lot of new companies kind of think about this in the sense of what makes us valuable. How can we have longevity, and pretty much staying power? And the fact that they were willing to admit that at any point in time, Amazon can compete and pretty much wipe them out, that's what really concerned us. And so just to kind of wrap it up, Samsara is a connected operations cloud business. And they're just more so looking to make things a lot easier for industries in which it seems almost impossible to put their information in the cloud and to connect so many different layers, and to make it simpler. So that concludes our presentation. Are there any questions?
Listen, Spelman Blue Chicks, you guys always bring it, and you guys brought it for sure. Yeah. I absolutely love, just how you guys work together. I love the personalities and the chemistry, but you guys actually brought it, and I do appreciate that. Simone, I do have a comment. You mentioned that you guys were kind of talking about there's no exclusivity from the investor, making the investment, and so yes, typically, when I was on the venture capital side, when we were making an investment in a company, they had to be exclusive to us, right? Like we needed that exclusivity, but then the investor dictates the terms. And so in that case where Amazon invested in Rivian, but also then came and invested in its competitor, most investors will say, hey, I've already invested in a like company, so I'm not, so we tend to abstain. But then you're talking about Amazon, who's not really beholden to anybody, and has, has the money to go spread the love, right? So they can dictate the terms. Investors, typically, if you're an anchor investor, you get to dictate the terms, and it's, led by, who's got the money. So.
I just wanted to make one comment because I know we're over time. You all did a phenomenal job. And Kimberly, I wanted to just think through if you all considered, Samsara having a built-in exit strategy, because Amazon, although they're going to jump in, they're also they're buying up, right, competitors. And so I just want you all to think in the future about that, because entrepreneurs typically think about an exit strategy. Now, when the market is heating up for fintech companies, they too are looking for exit strategies, because a lot of these smaller entrepreneurs, right, they want to go on to the next thing, cash out, and that's it. So that's one piece. And the other piece is, given the industry that they are in, moving to, technology from non-tech, there's going to be a lot of, you've seen the congressional hearings. There's a lot of pressure now on Amazon, Meta, et cetera. I think we're going to see more of that. And so the money that they have, I think you mentioned that they had a lot of cash. They raised a lot. I could foresee them putting that aside for lobbying. So I love both the picks that you all did. I love all the presentations today. I'm buying pretty much everything that you all mentioned because they were all,
I was thinking the same thing.
Really well done.
And also, Kimberly, the other thought, yes, there's an exit strategy, which means as an investor, you get to cash out on that too. So that's not a bad thing. But if you think about just the Internet of Things space, there's a ton of competition of companies that specialize in IoT. So the fact that they're doing industrial and it seems pretty niche specific, you are going to see other IIoT companies pop up that are going to be concentrated in different areas. I think there's plenty of room for that. So no, I was just thinking, Adrian, hey, I mean, like, I loved all of it. And if you notice, you know, the prices have come down. That can also be a buying opportunity if we're talking buy low and sell high, right? So when you do see a dip, question and say, hey, do I still believe in this company enough to buy and put more money in there? Because I believe they are going to continue growing based on all the stuff that I've seen and have looked at and researched. So that was excellent, excellent, excellent. The last thing, because we're way over time, I am going to put in your Drive folders the presentation that Justine did for us as a resource. I have a presentation that we did for our clients that I'm going to go ahead and share with you guys on cryptocurrencies as well, just to fill in some of the gaps or some of what Matt talked about so that you all have that as a resource. And I foresee that many of you may have some questions, so make sure you bring them on, okay? So with that, Adrian, I am done. The next meeting again is March the 16th,
Yes.
I believe. And listen, you all need to be prepared to present, okay? You don't know if you're going to be called, so there is an expectation that you will be prepared to present. And if you're not going to be presenting, please do send a message in advance and just let us know that you're not going to be prepared to present. The next assignment is cryptocurrencies. So buying crypto, either directly from one of the exchanges, kind of like Justine talked about, or indirectly through buying stocks or ETFs, okay? So that is the assignment, cryptocurrency in whatever flavor you feel works best for your team, okay? So that is it. Adrian,
last thing, Jennifer, I think that it may be of benefit to you all to make this recording available. If you need to go back and review some of the cryptocurrency, you know, what was discussed. So I don't know, Shaseen, will it be on the YouTube or can we send out the link?
I'll put it on YouTube.
Okay, perfect. So check YouTube so that if you need to go back and review, I think this one is one that's a lot more in depth that you may want to just use that also as a reference, okay? All right, ladies. Well, our next general body meeting will be the first Saturday in February. And so we are looking to wear red because it's National Heart Association Month. And so make sure you put on your red, join us at 2 o'clock, and we look forward to seeing you. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you.
Have a good night.